I think it was disappointing for the fans to come and see how poorly we played in the first half, and they didn't expect it. So I think it caught them cold, and I think that I haven't seen us pass so poorly the entire season as we passed in the first half. And like I said, I think that could only be a legacy of the efforts they put in on Tuesday night to beat Everton. But like I said, second half changing the shape was the big thing.
In football, there are careers defined by trophies, and then there are careers defined by moments. For Sam Allardyce, it has always been both. He built his name as the man clubs called when everything was falling apart, when relegation loomed, when confidence was shattered and hope was fading. He was the firefighter, the survival architect, the manager who could walk into chaos and impose order. But for all the battles he won on the touchline, there remains one chapter that continues to shadow his legacy, a moment he himself has described as the biggest regret of his career, a moment that lasted just 67 days, yet changed how many would forever see him. Tonight, we explore the rise, the controversy, the downfall, and the resilience of Sam Allardyce, a story of ambition, scandal, and survival in its rawest form. For nearly 3 decades, Allardyce built a reputation as one of English football's most pragmatic and effective managers. He wasn't glamorous, he wasn't romantic, but he was relentless. At Bolton Wanderers, he transformed a struggling club into a European contender. He modernised training methods, embraced sports science before it became fashionable, and created teams that were brutally difficult to beat. He frustrated bigger clubs, outthought more celebrated managers, and carved out an identity built on structure, discipline, and belief. In many ways, he was ahead of his time, even if critics never quite gave him the credit he felt he deserved. Yet throughout his managerial journey, one dream lingered in the background: the England job. For Allardyce, it was the pinnacle, the ultimate validation, a recognition that his methods, his philosophy, and his persistence had earned him the right to lead his country. For years, he felt overlooked. While others with flashier profiles were chosen, Allardyce waited. He believed his time would come. In July 2016, it finally did. After England's humiliating exit from Euro 2016 at the hands of Iceland, the Football Association turned to Sam Allardyce. It was presented as a fresh start, a steady hand to rebuild. Belief. A no-nonsense leader who understood English football from its foundations upward. For Allardyce, it was a dream realised. He had reached the summit. About 30 seconds into this story, if you're enjoying deep dives into football's most dramatic careers, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this, the triumphs and the collapses, the glory and the regret, deserve to be told properly, and your support helps keep them alive. Allardyce's England reign began with promise. His first and only match in charge was a 1-0 victory over Slovakia in a World Cup qualifier. It wasn't spectacular, but it was efficient. Adam Lallana scored a late winner, 3 points secured, a clean start. On paper, everything looked steady. But behind the scenes, a storm was already forming. In September 2016, just 67 days into his tenure, the Daily Telegraph released undercover footage that would detonate his dream. Reporters posing as businessmen had secretly recorded conversations with Allardyce. In those meetings, he appeared to advise them on how to get around FA rules regarding third-party ownership of players. He also discussed a potential $400,000 speaking engagement. The reaction was immediate and unforgiving. Within hours, headlines exploded across the country. Questions were asked not only about legality, but about judgment. Could the England manager afford even the perception of impropriety? The FA moved swiftly. Just 1 game into his tenure, Sam Allardyce was gone. His dream job had lasted barely 2 months. For Allardyce, the personal impact was devastating. He later admitted that the fallout affected his mental health severely. He described it as the worst moment of his career. Not because of the financial consequences, not because of public embarrassment, but because of what it represented. A lifetime of work, culminating in a single opportunity, undone almost overnight. He, too, stopped watching England games. For years, he couldn't bring himself to see the team he once led. The pain, he suggested, was too sharp, too personal. Allardyce and his agent, Scott McGarvey, insisted that he had been a victim of entrapment. They argued that he had been targeted, manipulated, lured into a conversation that was never meant to be a genuine business opportunity. McGarvey later said he was devastated that his attempt to secure a contract had resulted in the downfall of his friend. But in modern football, especially at international level, perception is reality. The FA could not risk reputational damage. Regardless of intent, the damage had been done. FA Chief Executive Martin Glenn later described the premature end of Allardyce's tenure as a tragedy, not a scandal, not a disgrace, a tragedy. On a purely sporting level, Glenn believed Allardyce had the tools to succeed. His experience, his tactical clarity, his man management, all suited to tournament football. But sport does not exist in isolation. The England manager is more than a coach. He is a symbol, and symbols must be spotless. The irony was painful. For years, Allardyce had fought against an image problem. Critics often caricatured him as old school, direct, unsophisticated. He felt misunderstood, particularly regarding his use of analytics and sports science. He believed he was modern in ways others didn't appreciate. The England role was meant to vindicate him. Instead, it cemented controversy as part of his legacy. Yet the England scandal was not the first cloud over his career. In 2006, he had been mentioned in a BBC Panorama investigation into alleged bribes in football. Although a subsequent FA inquiry found no evidence of wrongdoing, the association lingered. Allardyce consistently denied any misconduct. Still, in football, shadows can be as powerful as facts. Despite the humiliation of 2016, Allardyce did what he has always done best. He went back to work. Crystal Palace appointed him in December 2016 to steer them away from relegation. Many questioned whether he could recover from the England debacle. But on the pitch, he delivered. Palace survived. Structure returned. Stability restored. The firefighter had once again extinguished the flames. He later managed Everton, though with less success. The football was criticised as pragmatic to the point of negativity. Results were mixed. His time there ended amid debates about ambition and style. Then came West Bromwich Albion in 2020, a club fighting desperately against relegation. For years, Allardyce had worn his survival record as a badge of honour. He had never been relegated from the Premier League. It was an extraordinary statistic, a symbol of reliability. In 2021, that record fell. West Brom went down. For the first time in his long career, Sam Allardyce could not perform the miracle. The invincibility narrative cracked. Even specialists age. Even experts face limits. Still, he was not finished. In 2023, Leeds United turned to him in desperation. With just weeks remaining in the season, they handed him the shortest of missions. Save us. Allardyce famously declared that in terms of football knowledge, he was up there with Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp. Some saw it as confidence, others as arrogance. The results did not follow. Leeds were relegated. His tenure lasted just 30 days, the shortest in Premier League history. The man once synonymous with survival had now experienced 2 failures in quick succession. For some, it signalled the end of an era. But to reduce Sam Allardyce's career to its collapses is to ignore its resilience. He transformed Bolton into European competitors. He stabilised clubs that seemed beyond repair. He introduced performance metrics before most English managers considered them essential. Players often spoke of his clarity. They knew their roles, their responsibilities, their purpose. His critics point to style. His supporters point to results. The England scandal remains the defining wound, not because it involved corruption proven in court, but because it involved judgment questioned in public. Allardyce has repeatedly expressed regret. He acknowledges it as a moment of poor decision-making, of misplaced trust, of ambition clouded by opportunity. In private interviews, He has reflected on how quickly reputation can shift, how one conversation can overshadow decades of work, how in modern football cameras are always rolling and consequences are instant. Yet perhaps the true story of Sam Allardyce is not about downfall. It is about survival, personal survival. He endured public embarrassment on a national scale. He endured ridicule. He endured the loss of what he called his dream job. And still, he continued. In many ways, his journey mirrors the teams he managed. Knocked down, written off, rebuilding quietly, finding strength in adversity. Football history often remembers managers for silverware. But there is another kind of legacy. One built on stubbornness, on persistence, on refusing to disappear. Sam Allardyce may forever be associated with 67 days in 2016. He may forever wonder what could have been. Would England have stabilised under his guidance? Would tournament success have followed? Would his methods have thrived on the international stage? Those questions will never be answered. But beyond the scandal, beyond the headlines, there remains a figure who reshaped mid-table ambition, who challenged elite complacency, who believed deeply in preparation and structure long before it became fashionable. Tragedy in football is often exaggerated. Careers rarely end with a single mistake. But in Allardyce's case, that moment defined a chapter that can never be rewritten. And yet, if football teaches us anything, it is that reputation is never static. It evolves. It softens. It reframes. Today, when pundits discuss survival specialists, his name still surfaces first. When clubs flirt with relegation, his phone still rings. When debates arise about modern analytics in English football, his early adoption is acknowledged. His England tenure lasted 67 days. His managerial career has spanned decades. Perhaps that is the final perspective worth holding on to. Because while the England scandal was the loudest moment, it was not the entirety of the story. Sam Allardyce's career is a portrait of ambition colliding with vulnerability, of confidence tipping into controversy, of redemption pursued through persistence. In football's ruthless arena, he has tasted both respect and ridicule, belief and betrayal, and through it all, he has remained exactly what he has always been, uncompromising, opinionated, and undeniably resilient. That is the full story. Not just the fall, but the fight that followed.